Shout out to the family in the building. We are now live. Who's with me on this evening day? Brother Rich usually comes on at night, usually 9 o'clock. I'm on in the evening. I was supposed to do something with Red Pill later on. Red Pill got stranded in Florida. So that got canceled. But I don't know if we might do a Zoom. I'm not sure yet.
Battery
But
100%.
nonetheless,
Connected to Recipe
none
Flick 4.
But that's nonetheless, I'm live right now, family. So I want to thank you for joining me live, and got a great guest today. Brother's been on the platform a couple of times. I'm about to introduce the brother. Before I do, let me get to a quick commercial. Quick commercial with the merch, the new merch we got, the I Could Do Magic merch right here. Y'all see that's fire right there. We got the merch available. I advise all y'all to get some I Could Do Magic hoodies, shirts. You know what I'm saying? Let your clothes, your frequency, clothes represent the frequency that you on and the mind state that you on. So definitely cop the I Could Do Magic shirt. Let's get to this commercial. We'll be right back.
Magic, I can do magic. 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 I can do magic.
All right. So without further ado, I want to welcome to the platform once again, Roz Ben. Welcome, Roz Ben.
What up, Star? How you doing, man? Love and respect.
I'm great. I'm great. Roz, they're talking about next before we get started. To the Nikki Love, yes, there will be a listening party, Holy Ghost 3 next Saturday. I'm gonna share the flyer before we get out of here. Me, Cambada, KT, Red Pill, all of us is going to be at this listening party for Holy Ghost 3 next Saturday at 8 p.m. in Brooklyn, New York at the Alkaline Oasis. Roz Ben, are you speaking early at Nicholas with Wayne Chandler?
Yes, I'm not speaking, I'm vending. I'm like a guest, in-house guest.
Okay. Well, it's going to be popping in New York. Yeah, bro.
So are y'all doing something that same night?
Yeah, that night we're having a listening party that night for Holy Ghost 3, the album.
I think I'm gonna fall into that.
Okay, excellent. I would love to have you there,
I got 2 ears. I love to listen.
Okay, excellent. It's going to be an amazing day in New York this Saturday, December 16th. If you are in the New York area, come out. Brooklyn is going to be popping. Nicholas. Then from Nicholas, we go into Alkaline Oasis. So family, if you are in New York, December 16th, it's going to be an incredible day. We're going to be doing magic. We're going to be doing magic the whole day that day. Wayne Chandler's going to be there. Booker T. Coleman, Professor Kaba, Roz Ben, me, Cambada, the listening party. Red Pill will be in the building. Blue Pill, KT, the Arch Degree. It's going to be absolutely phenomenal this Saturday. I'm gonna do some shows to promote and let the people know about it. But with that being said, Roz Ben, man, this title, it's a lot going on. It's popping in the cosmos. It's popping on planet Earth right now. So much is going on. I seen a video of yours the other day where you were talking about manipulated prophetic timelines. And you know, I have a lot of people that talk about timelines. We get real metaphysical with it on this platform. But what I want to know, what I'm curious about, hearing you talk about, I know you're going to get into the different ways to manipulate timelines that we should be aware of so we don't get caught up in a manipulation, I would say, of our blessings. Yeah, so I would say, how can you manipulate prophecy? How can you manipulate destiny? If something is destined for me, how can somebody manipulate that, Roz Ben? Let's have a great conversation We're gonna be on for about an hour. Go ahead, my brother. I love the. I'm gonna love
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
conversation.
That's a question in a lot of people's minds and hearts right now. Like, how can you alter a timeline, especially a prophetic timeline? You know,
Yeah.
because prophecy is kind of mysterious. Where, let's say, a man who, uh, how his relationship with the flow of space time is. He has prophetic vision, right? And he speaks prophetic words. And the way, like we say, well, how do you balance that? What makes words prophetic? He says it. The prophecy is spoken, and the words ring as truth in the hearts and minds of those that hear it, and they echo it throughout the generations, you know? So when prophecy, which, we would say like real prophecy, on someone who has that prophetic vision and they speak them words, it's like you can't prevent that prophecy from manifesting. You can't stop it. But the thing is too, at the same time, we all know we live in what them call that multiverse, right?
Right. Yes. Yes.
There's an infinite number of possible outcomes of something. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
I might not be able to stop it, but I could maybe alter it, alter the outcome, and change it in such a way that a nefarious intention that I have can be embedded in that outcome, you know? So that's what Philadelphia is. And a lot of other things we see today is coming like that too, you know?
So what do you mean that's what Philadelphia is? How is Philadelphia of all places an aspect of the manipulation of the timelines, my brother? Because you talk a lot about Philadelphia.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, most people, if you say why was Philadelphia named Philadelphia, they're gonna say
Hmm.
because William Penn wanted it to be the place of brotherly love, right? That's what we hear.
Right.
But nah, it's tied into something much deeper than that. Something that historically is called William Penn's holy experiment, which was his attempt to to uh, execute another technique for manipulating a prophetic timeline, right? Which is to read prophecy, n- see what the prophetic text says is going to unfold, right? Then enact a historic event that mimics fulfillment of that prophecy, but has a whole other intention embedded in it. So William Penn's holy experiment was all about mimicking fulfillment of Revelations chapter 3, the title of which is the prophecy of the Church of Philadelphia. We could get into how it got that name later on in the reasoning if you want, but Revelations chapter 3 is an end time prophecy that names the community that receives grace on Judgment Day. And Philadelphia is the name of that community or that church that receives grace in what's called the hour of trial that's to come upon the whole earth. So when William Penn founded Philadelphia, again, it wasn't nothing about no brotherly love. He was attempting to mimic fulfillment of this prophecy of the Church of Philadelphia, right? With the unspoken
Wow.
dimension of it, right? How it's called Philadelphia experiment. You know how a scientist is, right? Let's
Mm-hmm.
say I'm a scientist and I want to conduct an experiment. What am I going to do before that experiment? I'm going to what?
No, go
I'm
ahead,
going
brother.
to
I don't know. Go ahead.
I'm going to research.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to research. I'm going to study what it is I'm attempting to this thing to be a part of my experiment. Why? Because usually a scientist wants to create the conditions that's going to make his experiment a success, right?
Mm-hmm.
So William Penn and many of like what we would say the early Rosicrucians, who were the masterminds behind this thing, right? They studied the Table of Nations. They studied geography. They studied indigenous people around the world. They studied prophecy and, you know, the book of Enoch and all of these different things. And they identified the place where, like, it was kind of said in prophecy, hey, if you're at this place when end time prophecy goes down, you'll be able to safely witness the judgment and not catch it, right? They named that place the 40th parallel in the wilderness. Where's New York, brother? Geographically. Isn't that the 40th parallel in the wilderness? Where's
Mm.
Philadelphia? 40th parallel in the wilderness. Where's Pittsburgh? Where's Denver? You know, where's Columbus, Ohio?
Mm.
And so when you study all the mysteries of them cities I just named, you see that's what it's all pointing to, especially Denver and Boulder,
Right.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
with the Denver airport, and the underground bunkers and all of that, all the mysteries out there, you know, is the key to
Mm-hmm.
understanding what it's all about. It's like, what can we say at least we know about Denver? It's seen with the airport and everything. Seems to be a set up to be a post-apocalyptic place of governance where they could have continuance of governance, right? And so again, it's all about being in this place where the original real prophecy says, hey, if you're in this place, you'll be able to safely watch judgment and not catch it, right? And
I
then,
don't know. They say New York's supposed to get flooded though, Rosbe.
well, you're right. You're right. And that's where, like, if you ask me, the perfected manifestation of all of this is Denver and Boulder, Colorado. That's where the Space Force is based out of, right? It's just a whole lot with Denver and Boulder, man. You got to study that. To see, all of these cities are on the 40th parallel in the wilderness. And when you study the archetype symbols, architecture, the mythos, different uh, mystic elements of these places, you're going to see this embedded in it. You know, this is an important key. Now, I haven't decoded New York like I need to yet, right? My focus has been Philly. We're on the lower cusp of the 40th parallel. You're on the upper cusp of the 40th parallel, you know? So that's, you know, that's for the next reason. And I don't want to get all spun out on that, you know? But the people that they, you know, the other part of this experiment, they were like, yo, let's find the people that prophecy says, like, yo, the original prophecy said these people are going to be saved on Judgment Day. They're going to receive the grace. They're going to receive the providence, right? And they called them in their works a couple of names. One woman named Jane Lee, who was known as the Philadelphian prophetess, who wrote the Philadelphia prophecies. Rosicrucian out of London. She called them Sarah types, like Abraham, right? Sarah being the wife of Abraham. So she was like, you know, y'all got to go out here and find these Sarah types and live amongst them. First Rosicrucian that came to the Americas, Johann Kelp. He lived in a cave in the neighborhood I'm in, right up here in Philadelphia. He called them the woman in the wilderness, which was like a reference to the woman clothed with the sun in Revelations, who, along with her man child, the woman clothed with the sun. Who's the woman clothed with the sun? You know, we all know who that is. You know, our melanated empresses, right? The woman clothed with the sun. Uh, those the deceiver of the nations in the bottomless pit and establishes 1,000 years of peace. These are the end time prophecies of revelations that these early Rosicrucians were attempting to manipulate by finding who they call the woman in the wilderness. Johann Kelp's order, the name of his order, was called the Society of the Woman of the Wilderness. You know? So these are the that the birthing of Philadelphia is all about. You know? You still there, Rich? Brother Rich. Yeah, so I hope, well, I don't know what's up. So yeah, just in terms of Judeo-Christian prophecy, right? If you say, all right, Ross, you saying there's all these prophetic distortions. What is the
Yeah.
original prophetic
I mean, Ross, I had to
inspiration?
step off. Go ahead, though, my brother.
No worries. I assume that. That's why I was like, I'm gonna just
Yeah.
keep reasoning and yeah. Give thanks. So I had finished your question on Philadelphia. I don't know if you wanted to proceed to something else or what's your thoughts?
Well, it's very interesting. But what I want to ask you is, with the ways like we're witnessing You know, there's so many main spots on earth, Rosban. We could say Philadelphia. Some people will say the Middle East is playing out certain prophecy. And I'm not going to say certain names. Y'all know exactly what I'm talking about, but y'all know about the censorship online. Some people would say Atlanta. You know, there's just different places. Some people say California. My thing is, there's these groups that's trying to manipulate timelines, whether they're fourth dimensional beings or third dimensional beings. What's some of the best ways to avoid the manipulation? Because if I have an inheritance coming for me, then another group comes along and say, hey, I'm those people, I deserve the riches of those people, and then they get me to believe that I don't deserve that. All of a sudden I'm not getting what I'm supposed to get. So what are some of the best ways for our people, and maybe it would be to study history or whatever, but how can we avoid the manipulation, you think, the best ways of this timeline thing that's going on?
Excellent question. We have to study not just history, but also prophecy,
Study
right?
prophecy. I like that.
You got to
I never
study
thought about it like
prophecy,
that.
man. So
Study
look,
right, right.
so look,
Okay.
we'll make
Okay.
a, we'll, I'm sure there's many in the Black Magic 363 community, right?
Well,
They'll make a clear distinction in their mind between religion and spirituality, right? They'll
yeah.
say spirituality is all about their direct interpersonal relationship with their ancestors, angels, or, however you want to name them, and the Most High, right?
Yeah.
And they more than likely will have some aversion to the idea and notions associated with religion, or at least would be conscious and make an effort not to get caught up in the control mechanisms associated with religion and the dogmas, right?
Right. Right.
But will they make that distinction between religion and prophecy, or spirituality and prophecy, or will they lump prophecy in with religion, right? And so, because of that, I think because a lot of times prophecy is lumped in with religion, and sad to say, a lot of religions, or religious movements will, you know, distort, pervert, misuse prophetic teachings, right? As a part of their dogma. And so it's like ones don't even want to check for it. But now we gotta, you know, again, make that distinction between religion and prophecy.
Right.
And,
Right.
we're not gonna say, because religion has been used as a control mechanism, I'm not going to deal with my spiritual self, right? We're not going to do that, right? We're just going to work with our spirituality, mindful, like, yeah, I'm not going to fall into the pitfalls of dogma, right? We
Right.
have to have that same attitude about prophecy.
With prophecy.
And,
Damn. That's
you
deep.
know, uh, this kind of feeds into what I started talking to you. I started talking about when you were stepped off, and
Yeah.
that is knowing the original prophetic timeline.
Timeline. Mm-hmm.
You got to know the original prophetic timeline. And if you're
Mm.
coming from a Judeo Christian prophetic lens, that original timeline is the book of Enoch. Why is that?
Oh, there we go.
Because
There we go.
Enoch is the first prophet. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, before the Book of Enoch was made anathema by Emperor Justinian in 543, right? Before that, what was the measure of a prophet? How well they could echo Enoch's original prophetic teachings for the time they was living in. But it was after
Wow.
Justinian, right? When anathema, that's another way to distort or manipulate prophetic timelines. This was a way since ancient Rome. And again, the most important anathema occurred in 543 AD with Emperor Justinian when he said, yo, the Book of Enoch, that thing is anathema, which means to make as if it never existed, right?
Mm.
So
Mm.
how that played out is not only did they destroy all books of Enoch, but any prophetic teachings that echoed Enoch too strong, any priesthoods or orders like that, like the Essenes, where like their whole thing was about Enoch, preserving
Mm-hmm.
Enoch. Yeah, all of them got eliminated in the Roman imperial world, you know? So the first 10 chapters of the book of Enoch, the first 10 chapters, you ain't even got to read the whole thing. First 10 chapters of the book of Enoch is what is distorted in what we would call the end time revelations of the Bible, you know? The King James
So, so,
Bible.
so the King James Bible took the Book of Enoch and distorted it.
Yes. And a quick uh the short and sweet, yeah, that's how it went down.
Give me an example of something that the King James Bible distorted from the Book of Enoch. Just give me one example.
All
'Cause this is
right.
interesting.
Well, I guess one would be that chapter we mentioned earlier, Revelations chapter 3, the message to the seven churches, right? And in particular, the actual name of chapter 3 is the prophecy of the church of Philadelphia. Okay?
Ooh.
All right, that's the
Ooh.
name of chapter 3 of
Okay.
Revelations. How did it get that name?
Wow.
There was a
Wow.
Ptolemaic pharaoh named Ptolemy Philadelphus.
Uh,
Uh, he was the pharaoh of northern Egypt during Hellenistic Grecian occupation of, that whole region.
right.
He was the second, maybe the second or third Ptolemaic pharaoh after Alexander the Great. Okay. And there's a lot. I could go deeper in how he got the name Philadelphia. I will mention it. But what's most important in this context right here is that Ptolemy Philadelphus was the founder of the University and Library of Alexandria. Okay. He founded the Library of Alexandria. Everyone talks about the destruction of the Library of Alexandria as it relates to one of the Roman Caesars. But I think the more important impact on history was the founding of the Alexandrian Library and some of the things that Ptolemy Philadelphus did in founding it. He used it as an opportunity to gather all the ancient scriptures from, around the world, pick and choose and cherry pick which ones he wanted. And then in the translation of these scriptures from like their ancient Hebrew, Aramaic, Coptic, Ge'ez, linguistic roots, he manipulated prophecy and he used the translation of, what we've come to call the Bible as the opportunity to insert himself, his family, and his community into end time prophecy, being the church that received grace on Judgment Day. And that's how Revelations chapter 3 became the prophecy of the Church of Philadelphia, you know?
Indeed.
So, but now, just in general, as it relates uh, even more directly to the book of Enoch, if you read the first 10 chapters of the book of Enoch and familiarize yourself with the symbolism that you find there, like the 7 seals, uh, the 24 angels round about the throne of heaven, and a lot of the symbolism that you find in Revelations, right? The original place you find these symbolisms is in Enoch. And the original context that you find these symbols is in Enoch.
Let me ask you, Rosben. Um, Somebody in the chat commented earlier, and this is going to a question I had. The main thing they distorted was the calendar. Now you're talking about the Book of Enoch. There's something on the internet where they talk about the Enochian calendar, and we have our calendar. We're going into this year 2024 in our calendar. What do you think the Enochian calendar or the ancients would say about the time that we are about to enter versus what we are saying? Are we close to what they're saying with what's going on in 2024? I'm just trying to compare the Enochian calendar and the current calendar that we use today.
That's an excellent question, brother.
Yeah, I
Yo,
got you to jump up, man. I got you to move, man. I
yeah,
got
yeah,
you.
yeah. Hey, look, are you familiar with another brother that he's famous? He's from this community right here in Germantown, Philadelphia. You ever heard of Sun Ra, the artist Sun
Yes.
Ra?
Yeah.
All
Yes,
right.
definitely.
So Sun Ra had one of his more famous tune. He got this tune. It's after the end of the world. Don't you know that yet? Yo, it's after the end of the world, brother. Don't you know
Wow.
that yet?
Wow.
And if if my calculations of the Enochian calendar are correct,
Uh-huh.
right? And you know, it's a field of study. So, and I'm just a student of this thing. I ain't no you know, I'm not no master of this thing. I'm a student of it. But if
Right.
my calculations are correct, the Enochian calendar ended in the year 1472, bruh, in time right
Ooh.
before Christopher Columbus. And
What?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So the timeline we're
So
on now, the timeline
it's,
we're on now is
it's
what
after the end of the world.
is after the end of the world. And I would call it the Philadelphia experiment timeline. You know?
Talk a little more about that, man. Wow, what is it? People may
Well, I
not know
already
what that
mentioned the
is.
first dimension of the Philadelphia experiment
Yeah.
timeline, which
Mhm.
was William Penn's holy experiment. This
Right.
manipulation of end time prophecy, right? But then that means it wasn't no coincidence that what is known by most people is what they call the Philadelphia experiment. This idea that in 1943, a scientist named John von Neumann testing Einstein's theory of relativity and using Tesla coil technology
Mm-hmm.
uh, opened up a hole in the fabric of space time down in South, like kind of near where the Philadelphia airport is, right? Tennecum,
Mm-hmm.
off Tennecum Island in the Delaware River, setting off these Tesla coils that were calibrated by von Neumann. You know, they said their goal was to create radar invisibility. But what it ended up happening was the ship that they set this thing off on it opened up a hole in the fabric of space time and set the stage for, this time manipulation we're experiencing now. Because everyone's experiencing the time manipulation. We just misnamed it. Most people call it, they don't call it the Philadelphia experiment effect. What do they call it, brother?
What do they call it?
The Mandela effect.
Mm. Mm.
Call it the Mandela effect. This idea like, yo, am I on the same timeline I was born on? I
Mm-hmm.
remember Ed McMahon delivering checks for Publishers Clearinghouse
Mm-hmm.
during uh Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. I don't remember it being some American publishers, something, something, or whatever, you know? I remember uh that young girl in that James Bond movie when Jaws was trying to holler at her. She had braces on her teeth, you know?
Right.
I
Yeah.
remember it being uh Berenstein Bears, not Berenstain Bears. What? I homeschooled. I had a
Mm-hmm.
shelf. I had
Mm-hmm.
somebody gave me a whole shelf of Berenstein Bears, man. You know?
Mm.
I don't remember no Berenstain Bears. What? Are we all on the same timeline we were born on? I don't know, right?
Mm.
And everybody has their uh they want to call it a misremembering or just difference in how they remember something, right? But see,
Right.
when we misname something, we can never understand what we're experiencing. And when we say blank effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Usually that blank is the cause, like a placebo effect. You take a sugar
Mm.
pill, but because you were
Mm-hmm.
told it's medicinal, it has a therapeutic effect on you, right? Or the
Mm-hmm.
butterfly effect. It's the idea that a butterfly could flap its wings in one place and it set off a chain of events halfway around the world, right? So if we say Mandela effect, we'll always be confused. Why? Because Mandela isn't the cause. even when you study how it got that name, Mandela is one of the effects. This woman, I forgot her name off the top of my dome, but this woman had Fiona something. Her name was Fiona something. Uh, she saw a news account of Nelson Mandela dying, but she had a remembrance of Mandela dying years earlier under a different circumstance. So then that made her, she started an online chatting community asking, are people experiencing similar phenomenon? It kind of grew out of that. So they called it the Mandela effect. But if you want to name that thing something that cognitively, it's causal. So when you say blank effect, you can understand overstand what it is. You gotta name it the
Mm-hmm.
Philadelphia experiment effect. Because that
Mm-hmm.
is
Okay.
the cause of, you know?
Mm. You heard something wild and on the internet. What's the dude name? I think his name was Bruce Goldstein, I think. And you mentioned Nikola Tesla earlier, so I'm like I want to ask Roz Ben this. He said that Nikola Tesla was testing out the death ray. He had this death ray weapon. You ever heard of the death ray?
Yes.
Uh, yeah. So he was testing out this death ray, I guess, thing he was working on, and something happened with it, and it ended up hitting Black Wall Street. And they say when Black Wall Street got destroyed in Tulsa, Oklahoma, a lot of people just attributed to the government, but Nicola's death ray hit it. He didn't do it on purpose, it hit it by accident. But that's what gave them the opening to do what they did, because they seen something had hit this town. So that's when they got antsy, they got froggy, and they decided to jump and attack the Black community. Have you? Now that's some wild shit. I've never heard that. I just heard that this year. Has that ever came across your research, or do you think something like that could possibly be true?
No, I haven't heard that. The wildest things I heard about Tesla uh, was that the apartment building he lived in New York, he was able to kind of pimp that building out with some of his
Mm-hmm.
electronics, and
Mm-hmm.
that it possibly caused an explosion in another part of Manhattan. I had heard that.
Mm.
I
Mm.
also heard that he had built a tower, and I think this was somewhere in the Midwest. I can't say if it was near Black Wall Street, but that he
Mm-hmm.
built a tower that he was experimenting on
Mm-hmm.
or experimenting with. And I don't know if it was
Mm-hmm.
designed to be a death ray as much
Mm-hmm.
as a source of free energy, and that some of his opposition blew that thing up to
Mm.
kind of be a discredit to him, to make it seem like his technology wasn't safe.
Right.
So, and I also heard that his technology, beyond being experimented on the USS Eldridge here in Philadelphia as a part of Philadelphia
Mm-hmm.
experiment, was also
Mm-hmm.
intricately involved in the Montauk projects of
Mm-hmm.
'83,
Right.
of
Yeah.
which Stranger Things is a fictionalized depiction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Yeah, it gets real. It gets real interesting. It's real interesting, Rosman. Let's there was something. Let me ask you this. This was interesting. Somebody in the chat, shout out to Connie Johnson, said Emperor Justinian seems to have everything to do with hiding our lineage. What's your thoughts on that comment, my brother?
Yeah. Well, because one thing about the original prophetic timeline, some of the most important things to be aware of, end time prophecy, Enochian end time prophecy, humanity didn't supposed to catch no judgment. There's fallen angels that were supposed to catch a judgment in end time. I heard you mention like higher dimension beings being ones kind of responsible for our manipulation. You say why, that's a big part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where
Mm-hmm.
uh there's several key differences between Enoch and I guess what we could say the whole Bible. Uh in Enoch, the root of evil, the source of evil is not humanity. It's not
Mm-hmm.
because Eve ate from a tree of knowledge of good and evil and tempted Adam, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's because these angels from the celestial realm saw the daughters of woman, the daughters of man, thought they
Mm-hmm.
were beautiful and came on to them, you know,
Mm.
and
Mm.
spawned a race of giants or Nephilim, fallen angels that devoured everything, all the fruits and animals of the earth, and wreaked havoc on the earth and
Mm-hmm.
taught humanity corrupted teachings, how to make weapons, how to make cosmetics, how to taught different languages, confused the languages. So just created a lot of the problems we see today. So Enoch says that's the root of, like we say, sin or evil,
Mm-hmm.
the root of the problems on the earth, where the Bible puts it on just the carnal nature of man, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is Enoch another name for Tahuti? I believe I heard somebody
He
say.
absolutely is.
So okay, so that is Tahuti. Okay,
Yes,
could you elaborate on that a
yes.
little bit?
Well,
And why do you choose to use Enoch, the name Enoch, instead of Tahuti? Why do you go with that timeline instead of the Tahuti timeline?
great question. Well, I would say the biggest link to Enoch and Tahuti, right, is when you study the Ethiopian calendar, like you had mentioned earlier, right? The
Mm-hmm.
first day of the calendar is named what? One Thoth.
Woo! We get somewhere tonight, y'all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The first
We get
day
somewhere tonight.
of
Uh-huh.
the Enochian Ethiopian calendar is one Thoth.
I had no
So
idea. Wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you know, the teachings of what was called in Greek Hermopolis, uh, in Kemet, known as Ipet Isut, or most holiest of schools, you know. Uh, this was part of the Theban complex in Karnak, Waset, and Kemet, right? It's pretty obvious that that priesthood from that particular temple complex in Kemet are the ones who fled south into the highlands. You know, they followed the Nile south up into the highlands of Ethiopia and established what we know today as the Tawahedo Ethiopian Coptic Church, you know. So many of the teachings from that specific Kemetic temple complex, where the temple of Tahuti, the temple of Thoth was, you know,
Mm-hmm.
a
Mm-hmm.
lot of their teachings are preserved in Ethiopia. And we know it was a practice in Kemet to make the symbols of the Most High we use reflect
Mm-hmm.
the time of the heavens, or like the precession of the equinoxes.
Right,
So in the
right.
age of Taurus from 4000 BC to 2000 BC, we saw a lot of bull imagery in Kemet,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
2000 BC to about 0 AD, right? And I know this is Gregorian time, just bear with me, right? We saw a lot of ram imagery because we were in the age of Aries. We're on the cusp now, end of Pisces, beginning of Aquarius, right? But age of Pisces, the fish, the fish savior, Yasos Christos, was the sign of the times. So that's why the, Coptic Church got that Christian symbolism and imagery with it, you know?
This dude here says so. Thoth wrote the Emerald tablets first, and then the Book of Enoch. Tootie was a bad boy, man. He wrote. He wrote all of that. That was a bad dude right there, man. He was getting busy in this realm, man. God damn.
And
Woo.
what might can be said is that the Book of Enoch is uh uh amorphosized version of the Emerald tablets, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's another possible way of looking at it because the Book of Enoch is so deep, man. Really, it's the foundation of so many ologies and sciences that we're familiar with, like astronomy, astrology,
Right.
geology, geography, uh, meteorology, the study of the weather, navigation. There's so many ologies and branches of study that are contained just within the Book of Enoch. That it's more than, like, you know how even today there's what is considered a schism between science and religion. That schism doesn't exist in the Book of Enoch. The Book of
Right.
Enoch is as much science as it is, uh, or you say scripture. Hey, you
Indeed.
there?
Indeed. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Hey,
Oh yeah.
if you got that flyer, put that flyer up, man, because we are
Oh,
going to
thanks.
have a Zoom
Yes. Thanks.
session tomorrow, 12:12.
Let me
uh,
find.
where we're gonna go we're gonna go deeper on this original Enochian prophetic timeline, go deeper into the Enochian calendar. Because another important thing about the Enochian calendar that I didn't mention, it's the key to understanding the link between the Mayan calendar and other calendar systems of the world. Because,
Mm-hmm.
the Mayan calendar, the Soul King, uh, if you don't know the Enochian calendar as it's preserved in Ethiopia, and you just look at like the Justinian calendar or the Chinese count of days, like it's like, where did this Mayan calendar come from? When you look at the Enochian calendar, you really see what's the Mayan calendar? It's a modified, it's a modified, scaled down version of the Enochian calendar. And another important thing about the Book of Enoch, excuse me, another important thing about the Book of Enoch is that Enoch is the first astrologer. And not only was Enoch the first astrologer, he created the system of both sidereal and geocentric or tropical astrology. Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And all of this
Wow.
is in the book of Enoch, you know. But what we're going to do
That-
tomorrow, as far as setting the prophetic stage of 2024, because you kind of asked that question earlier, like, well, how do we get back on this original timeline? How do we get on the original prophetic timeline? First thing we got to do is know it. We got to know what it is. That's the first step. We got to know what the original prophecies were. And again, first 10 chapters of the book of Enoch, Revelations. That's like really the key right there for understanding how the original prophetic timeline, the symbolism of it was thrown off. But then again, like, well, what time? When is this thing supposed to go down? What? Sun Ra tried to tell us a long time ago. It's after
mhm.
the end of the world. Don't we know that yet?
Mm,
But I think that's where the Mayan calendar comes in, because
mm,
when did the Mayan calendar? All right, so look, the Enochian count of days is a 7,000 year calendar, a 7,000 lunar year calendar, right? That began approximately 5,500 BCE, right? And ended, like I said, around 1472. Mayan calendar started in 3113 BCE.
mhm,
And right, supposedly ended 2012, right? But here's the thing. What jumped off 3113 BCE? First dynasty of Kemet. Okay? And to be totally honest, and this is hard for a lot of Kemetians and people that you know want to consider Kemet our classical culture. And I'm not saying the studying
mm,
Kemet isn't important. Studying Kemet is very important, right? But The establishment of the first dynasty was a big
Right.
manipulation of history.
Mm.
Why? Because what is everything prior to the first dynasty considered? Prehistory. As and so what does prehistory mean? What? Think about that. You
Pre-dynastic.
gotta, yeah,
The word.
pre-dynastic. Anything. So
Mm.
what does that mean? A lot of anathema occurred, making things as if it never existed, you know? And I'm not gonna get all deep into that tonight because we would be spun out, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but the thing is how it relates to the Mayan calendar.
Right.
I think the ancients who were familiar with the original Enochian count of days and then became aware like, this cat Menez, this cat Aha plays some real anathema with the founding of Kemet. Let's recalibrate things so the latter
Mm.
generations will have something to work with. I think that's what the Mayan calendar is. And we're going to do our best to show that tomorrow night with Red and Blue
Yes.
Pills, Sister Kafunya Star Rebel. We're going to get an earlier
Mm-hmm.
start like how you did tonight. Because
Mm-hmm.
we're going to go in, if the pillars is going to be on there, what? And just like what you say, we PJ-13 tonight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
But tomorrow it's gonna be rated
yeah.
R.
We're gonna go in. And so uh to get the link is to get the Zoom link, PayPal, rospin188@gmail.com is my PayPal. My Cash App is $Rospin188. Asking for a $24 donation, $24 love shot. Because what we're going to basically do is synchronize the Enochian calendar with the Mayan calendar and the astrological cycles of our solar system. Show how they all synchronize. And
I want to because
just
we
to
about
seal it, hopefully
yeah.
get the keys to anchor where we are in space time as it relates to prophecy,
All right, I want to get to a couple of questions before we get out of here, Ross Ben. Real quick, a couple of questions. Why were the gates of hell built in Philly spiritually?
Great question. The gates of hell in Philly, there's two memorialized places the gates of hell are that I think are very relevant as Philadelphia and Paris, France. Okay, so the catacombs of Paris, you got to go through a similar gate to hell, right? And both of these places are memorializing a place called Hauska Castle, which, like, on the internet, it's like listed as one of the most haunted places on planet Earth. It's in the former Czechoslovakia. I think it might be called the Czech Republic now. It's about 20 miles north of Prague, which was a former Roman imperial capital in Slavic Eastern Europe. And in Hauska Castle, like we could say, the literal gates of hell were open. Hauska Castle wasn't built because it was on a trade route or it was like a military outpost that was securing some strategic location. It was built on top of a hole, a large hole in the earth that what the tradition says is that entities would come out of this hole at night and kidnap the locals and bring them back down into this hole, right? So they built Hauska Castle over this hole to prevent entities from terrorizing the community, right? It had no running water, fake windows. Like you got to just study it. It's a wild scene, right? But the thing is when Imperial Rome, when Prague became the center of Imperial Rome, some Roman emperors started doing rituals and uh wild things up in House of the Castle. And
Right, right. Okay.
they actually spawned uh the bloodline. What's their name? Hohen Lahe. That's their name. The Hohen Lahes is probably the most
Mm.
important bloodline in all of Europe. The Hohen Lahes. And they're like the parent bloodline of like Vlad the Impaler, you know? And most of the bloodlines, what I'm saying, the noble bloodlines of Europe, they're the they're the ones they all at the end of the day gotta give them tribute. And guess what Hohen Lahe's totem, their animal totem is, bruh?
What?
The Black Panther.
Woo!
Yeah, yeah,
Mic
yeah.
drop.
Black Panther. They tricky with
Mm.
their thing, man. They are. They real tricky
Yeah.
with their thing.
Hey, let me get to this last question, Rosben. Um, this is sister asked a question earlier. She got good questions. Is the 13 moon calendar a good resource since we talking about all this calendar stuff? What's your
It's an
thoughts on the
excellent
13 moon
resource.
calendar?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, solar calendar is really aligned with the seasons, right? The lunar calendar is what's aligned most with our month-to-month biorhythms. New moon, quarter moon, full moon, those are usually like if let's say uh you're getting ready to drop something, right? You and Kambata got a big project y'all working on, and you're not paying attention to the biorhythm. You just do it random. But it's like I could do magic, but
Right.
you do it on a waning moon. You do it when the moon is going out of fullness, waning out with its energy. And
Mhm.
then you have your uh debut event and there's 8 people up in there. Like what happened? Right?
Mm.
Where if you align that thing with the lunar calendar. And so even if it didn't pop on the new moon, you did something. Some I can do magic on the new moon,
Mhm.
and then did something every day, building up to that opening, and then jump that thing off around the full moon. You got a full house, and it works so synchronistically, like people that, you know, knowing them is like
Yeah.
knowing 1,000. And
Mm-hmm.
they helped. And, you know, yeah. So that's the importance of getting on a calendar that is more lunar as opposed to solar,
Mm-hmm.
and more lined up with our biorhythm, you know? So I hope that answers it. But that's what we're gonna
Um.
go into deeply uh tomorrow. We're gonna
Mhm.
penetrate the mind. We're gonna look at the Enochian calendar, which is a lunar calendar. The Ethiopian calendar is lunar. It's not a 365-day year. It's a 364-day year. 13 moons and
Mm.
28 days, right?
Mhm.
So yeah. Uh
Powerful. Let me share this flyer one more time before we get out of here. Let the people know one more time. It's going
all
down,
right.
family.
And
Roswell
I
got
even
a
have to
Zoom.
say,
Yeah.
thank you for opening up your platform and allowing me to share this with your community. It's even kind of an example of what I was just talking about, where tomorrow is the new moon, right?
Right.
And yeah, it lined up
Mm.
where, hey, you reached out right when I was pulling this together. And I appreciate love you working with me in such a way that I can share this to, inspire ones to sit in with us. And thank you, you know.
No doubt, no doubt. I'm just following my intuition. My intuition leads me where I need to go, my brother. So I'm glad to be of assistance. Once again, family, Rod Hayes. I'm not Rod Hayes. Roz Ben. I said Rod Hayes. Roz Ben has a Zoom happening tomorrow. It's a $24 donation. You can cash app the brother $ Roz Ben 188. He also has a PayPal, rosben188 at gmail.com. It's going to be the Roz Ben Kafunya Star Rebel. Shout out to Kafunya in the chat. She's gonna be with the sound bowls tomorrow, family. So if you want
That's
some of that
right.
sound bowl
That's
cymatic
right.
healing, that's
That
gonna
new
be super
moon
powerful
healing.
within itself. Yeah.
Get that
So
new
shout out to
moon reset.
Kafunya. Also, shout out to Red and Blue. They're gonna be in the building. So it's gonna be a great Zoom tomorrow. So I wish y'all the best success. Today was a great
Thank you.
show, and if today was just a teaser, I can imagine what tomorrow's gonna be. Leave your contact info before we get out of here, Ross Ben, so the people can holler at you.
I got a one-stop shop, rossben.com.
Mhm.
Uh, I am going to commit myself to being a little more active on IG in 24. I'm also in the process of establishing a Patreon community in 24 because, as I'm sure you're experiencing, we can't just free up on that YouTube platform like we
Right,
once
right.
could. And,
Yeah, yeah.
I like to go deep. I like to go in. I like to be
Oh yeah.
able to uh, share what's on my heart without feeling like they're gonna spank my back of my wrist for saying such a thing, you know?
Yeah. I feel you.
So yeah, it's that time. And two, just working for YouTube, it ain't working no more. Just
Mhm.
the economics of it. The paywall is becoming a paywall reality. Uh, you know, trying to fight these algorithms. That thing don't work. You can't beat them out. At least I can't. And some might have cracked that code. Ross Ben ain't. I haven't done it yet, you know?
Mhm. Mhm. Indeed.
But thank
Hey,
you
once
once
again,
again,
brother.
brother.
Yeah.
Salute to your
Yeah.
community. Big up. I know What? You rocking with the best. I know. Black Magic 363 Circle. What? It's an honor. It's an
All
honor.
right.
Keep
And
doing
I'm
your
gonna
good
see
work.
you.
Steady on your good works.
And I'm gonna see you Saturday in NYC at the album listening party, my brother.
Oh man, you just added a whole new. Man, I'm gassed. You said the Pillars is gonna be there too.
Pillars, KT, it's gonna be action packed, my brother.
Oh man.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
we gonna be in there doing magic.
All
We gonna
right.
be in there
All
doing
right. I'm
magic.
excited.
Brooklyn, New York.
I'm excited, brother. All right.
All
Give
right. Hey,
thanks.
Roz, I appreciate. See you. Peace, my brother.
All right. Respect.